Hey guys, I am Subhagyu and welcome to my channel Subhagyu Editor. So in today's video, I'm gonna tell you about my review on 4 books. First, Sherlock Holmes. Second, Helen Keller, The Story of My Life. Third, Harry Potter books. Fourth, The Comedy of Errors. Sherlock Holmes is a mystery action film, and Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle is the author of the book.
But who is Arthur Conan Doyle?
Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle was born on the 22nd of May 1859, and died on the 7th of July 1930. And he was a British writer and physician. He created the character Sherlock Holmes in 1887 for A Study in Scarlet, the first of 4 novels and 56 short stories about Holmes and Dr. Watson. The Sherlock Holmes stories are considered milestones in the field of crime fiction. Doyle was a prolific writer. Other than Holmes' stories, his works include fantasy and science fiction stories about Professor Challenger and humorous stories about the Napoleonic soldier Brigadier Gerard, as well as plays, romances, poetry, non-fiction and historical novels. One of Doyle's early short stories, J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement, 1884, helped to popularize the mystery of the Mary Celeste. Some main characters are: first, Sherlock Holmes. Second, Dr. John Watson. Third, D.I. Greg Lestrade. Fourth, Mrs. Hudson. Fifth, Mycroft Holmes. Sixth, Molly Hooper. Seventh, Jim Moriarty. Eighth, Mary Morstan Watson. Ninth, Eurus Holmes. And the story is about a British crime television series based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes detective stories. Created by Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss, it stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock Holmes and Martin Freeman as Dr. John Watson. The most interesting character is Sherlock Holmes, and the main part is when Sherlock meets John Walton. Helen Keller. The Story of My Life. Helen Keller, The Story of My Life, is a biography, and Helen Keller is the author of the book.
Who is Helen Keller?
Helen Adams Keller, June 27, 1880, June 1, 1968, was an American author, disability rights advocate, political activist and lecturer. Born in West Tuscumbia, Alabama, she lost her sight and hearing after a bout of illness at the age of 19 months. She then communicated primarily using home signs until the age of 7. When she met her first teacher and lifelong companion Anne Sullivan, who taught her language, including reading and writing, Sullivan's first lessons involved spelling words on Keller's hand to show her the names of objects around her. She also learned how to speak and to understand other people's speech using the Tadoma method. After an education at both specialist and mainstream schools, she attended Radcliffe College of Harvard University and became the first deafblind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. She worked for the American Foundation for the Blind, AFB, from 1924 until 1968, during which time she toured the United States and traveled to 35 countries around the globe, advocating for those with vision loss. Some main characters are: first, Helen Keller. Second, Anne Sullivan. The setting of Helen Keller's The Story of My Life radically shifts over the course of the book. It begins in Keller's birthplace in the town of Tuscumbia, Alabama, where she is mysteriously taken ill as an infant with a disease that strips her ability to see, hear, and communicate. After Keller's behavior becomes so erratic that her family can no longer tolerate it, they visit Alexander Graham Bell in Washington, D.C., who suggests that they seek help from the Perkins Institution in Boston. Keller receives a teacher from the Perkins Institution, Anne Sullivan, who comes from Boston to Tuscumbia to correct Keller's behaviors. At the age of 8, Keller visits the Perkins Institution and Cape Cod. She later travels more extensively, visiting Chicago, Washington, D.C., again, Niagara, and Cambridge, Massachusetts. And the most interesting character is Helen Keller. And the main part is, in the winter of 1892, Helen experienced a major setback in her creative life. She composed a story called The Frost King, inspired by Miss Sullivan's vivid descriptions of the changing fall foliage at Fern Quarry. Helen sent the story to Mr. Onagnos as a birthday gift, and Onagnos was so pleased and impressed that he published the story in a Perkins Institution newsletter. Soon after the story's publication, however, it was discovered that the Frost King bore striking similarities to a well-known children's story called The Frost Fairies, published years before Helen was even born. Helen was ashamed, astonished, and embarrassed, though she realized that her plagiarism was inadvertent. She must have had the story read to her by Miss Sullivan at a young age, and had its details stamped upon the surface of her memory, as when she was still learning language she retained everything read to her in sharp detail. Mr. Onagnos, convinced that Helen had willfully plagiarized the story, forced her to appear before a court of teachers and administrators at the Perkins Institution. Although Helen was ultimately found, as when she was still learning language she retained everything read to her in sharp detail. Mr. Onagnos, convinced that Helen had willfully plagiarized the story, forced her to appear before a court of teachers and administrators at the Perkins Institution. Although Helen was ultimately found innocent, the ordeal changed Helen's relationship to the written word and caused her to second-guess herself in all of her compositions for a long while. Ultimately, though, Helen concludes that the incident did serve to teach her to think deeply about the problems and methods of composition, and the ways in which young writers must wade through the temptations toward assimilation and reproduction of others' words and ideas in order to find their own true voices. Third, Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a magical world film, and J.K. Rowling is the author of the book.
But who is J.K. Rowling?
Joanne Rowling was born the 31st of July 1965, better known by her pen name J.K. Rowling, is a British author, philanthropist, film producer, television producer, and screenwriter. She is best known for writing the Harry Potter fantasy series, which has won multiple awards and sold more than 500 million copies, becoming the best-selling book series in history. The books are the basis of a popular film series, over which Rowling had overall approval on the screen and was a producer on the final films. She also writes crime fiction under the pen name Robert Galbraith. Some main characters are: first, Harry Potter; second, Ginny Weasley; third, Draco Malfoy; fourth, Severus Snape; fifth, Hermione Granger; sixth, Albus Dumbledore; seventh, Ron Weasley; eighth, Lord Voldemort; ninth, Minerva McGonagall; 10th, Rubeus Hagrid. Harry Potter is a series of 7 fantasy novels written by British author J.K. Rowling. The novels chronicle the lives of a young wizard, Harry Potter, and his friends Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, all of whom are students at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The main story arc concerns Harry's struggle against Lord Voldemort, a dark wizard who intends to become immortal, overthrow the wizard governing body known as the Ministry of Magic and subjugate all wizards and muggles, non-magical people. And the most interesting character is Harry Potter. The most interesting part is of the potion class in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Fourth, the Comedy of Errors. Comedy of Errors is a comedy story and William Shakespeare is the author of the book.
But who is William Shakespeare?
William Shakespeare, the 26th of April 1564, the 23rd of April 1616, was an English playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon, or simply the Bard. His extant works, including collaborations, consist of some 39 plays, 154 sonnets, 3 long narrative poems, and a few other verses, some of uncertain authorship. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those of any other playwright. They also continue to be studied and reinterpreted. Some main characters are: first, Selinus; second, Igon; third, Emilia; fourth, Antipholus of Ephesus; and Antipholus of Syracuse; fifth, Dromin of Ephesus; and Dromin of Syracuse; sixth, Angelo; seventh, Adriana. Set in the Greek city of Ephesus, the Comedy of Errors tells the story of two sets of identical twins who were accidentally separated at birth. Antipholus of Syracuse and his servant, Dromio of Syracuse, arrive in Ephesus, which turns out to be the home of their twin brothers, Antipholus of Ephesus and his servant, Dromio of Ephesus. When the Syracusans encounter the friends and families of their twins, a series of wild mishaps based on mistaken identities lead to wrongful beatings, a near seduction, the arrest of Antipholus of Ephesus, and false accusations of infidelity, theft, madness, and demonic possession. Most interesting character is Antipholus of Ephesus and Antipholus of Syracuse. And the most interesting part is Act 5. The courtesan resolves to tell Adriana that her husband is insane. Dromio of Ephesus returns to the arrested Antipholus of Ephesus, with the rope. Antipholus is infuriated. Adriana, Luciana, and the courtesan enter with a conjurer named Pinch, who tries to exorcise the Ephesians, who are bound and taken to Adriana's house. The Syracusans enter, carrying swords, and everybody runs off for fear, believing that they are the Ephesians, out for vengeance after somehow escaping their bonds. Adriana reappears with henchmen, who attempt to bind the Syracusans. They take sanctuary in a nearby priory, where the abbess resolutely protects them. Suddenly, the abbess enters with the Syracusan twins, and everyone begins to understand the confused events of the day. Not only are the two sets of twins reunited, but the abbess reveals that she is Igen's wife, Emilia of Babylon. The Duke pardons Igen. All exit into the abbey to celebrate the reunification of the family. Please like my video, and if you are new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button.